This bird banding video was made in conjunction with San Marcos, Texas application to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department for a Bird City designation. Led by Rebecca Rylander and assisted by Amanda Haverland and Christina Farrell. Rebecca reviews the banding procedures.
All right, well here we have our banding station table. This is kind of ground zero of our banding operation, if you will. And as you can see, we have all sorts of various equipment, notebooks, actual books here, all of these to help guide us when we're banding birds and when we're trying to identify, individuals, what species sometimes, sex, as well as age, and take a handful of measurements. So when you're a bander, a master bander, you always want to have a log. And with your log, you want to always have your master bander permit. So you always have your permits on you when you're doing any sort of activity. It's very important to be legal. We also have our wonderful pile guide, which is kind of the guide to banding birds, if you will. It's not exactly an exciting read, but it is full of incredibly detailed information about each species and how to band them, etc. But you can also see we have a bunch of aluminum bands. These are registered with the U.S. Geological Service, and each one has a unique 9-digit band code to them, so that when you band an individual and you let it go, if they are recaptured later, you can actually tell exactly who that individual is, when they were banded, where they were banded, who banded them, and perhaps some other information from it. Yes, and so you always want to record the band for sure, and you put it in your log, and all of this information actually you enter into an online database that the USGS then keeps track of. And so you can actually have, one bander doing a whole bunch of banding and bird measurements, etc. And if you release a bird and it migrates, they may catch it up in Canada, and they're able to then take those measurements, do more with that bird. And so through banding, you can actually tell a lot about a individual species, but you can also tell about a bird community as a whole. We also have color bands, and color bands are different from our aluminum bands in that they are indeed very colorful. They come in a large, variety of colors, if you will. And these you actually have to have a special little kind of notch on your permit for. You don't just put color bands on any bird, and you only put them on birds when you're trying to identify individuals. So, individuals by just binoculars. So, true, if we recatch a bird with an aluminum band on it, we can read the aluminum band. But if you're looking at it in a tree, you can't read these numbers. And so you put various combinations of these color bands along with the aluminum band on the legs of a bird, and through just focal observation, you can actually tell who that individual is, and perhaps if it's, interacting with another bird of its kind. And we actually also have PIT tags. So these are passive integrative transponder tags. They have their own unique radio frequency. And so these are also a very, very specialized type of tag that you only put on an individual if you have an additional permit for it. This is kind of a way to almost have a bird land on some sort of antenna setup, if you will, like a feeder. And if the bird then lands on that feeder that's connected to a little chipboard, a motherboard, you can actually get a little blip, boop, almost like you're scanning groceries, doot, and you can actually tell that individual, that unique individual, when it came in, who it came in with, how frequently, etc. And so PIT tags are actually becoming a really useful tool now that the technology is becoming so small and much cheaper to use for biologists doing wildlife studies. All right, so first thing we want to do with this bird is we're gonna get a weight. And so we use fancy smancy spring scale He's going to be too heavy with the bag for this one, so we go up a size of scale. Ooh, we got a fighter. And then we subtract the bag later. And since we already know actually what this bird is, and it's a feisty one, I'm actually going to get the band ready before I pull the bird out of the bag. Sometimes you don't know if you're at a really busy banding station, you have to pull it out. But this is a bird where we actually know what band size it gets, and I'll explain that in just a second. You always want to be really careful getting a bird out of a bag because they can slip out, so you always kind of cinch the bag with your other hand while you reach in. Especially if you have something like a chickadee or a wren. They're very loud. So here we have our beautiful male cardinal, and why I knew what band to give them is because their bill is so incredibly strong that they can actually crush a standard aluminum band. They can crush it around their leg and actually injure themselves, and so they get a special sized stainless steel band. I know, here I am. So you always have to be really careful though, and just take your time, because you also don't want to crush the stainless steel. All right, so he's set. And each of these bands has a 9-digit number. And so every bird that you band is unique, so that if a bander were to catch him somewhere else, or we come back again, catch him on another occasion, we can actually tell when and where we caught this bird, and hopefully, you know, take some additional measurements. Yes. So one of the measurements we'll take is his wing chord. So I'm going to actually turn him a little bit. And you can see that this wing roll actually has a little bump, a nub, so that you can back it right up to the top of that wing and lay it right there on top. So it's kind of handy to have that little nub. Another measurement we take is tail. It's a little invasive, if you will, but you kind of split the tail up the middle up until it stops. Sorry, little buddy. And it's right at 98. Other measurements you can take include fat, tarsus length, which is its leg, Coleman, which is its bill. Cardinals love to bite, and they actually can bite quite hard. You get used to it though, your fingers go numb. But we can tell this is a male because it's red. Sometimes birds aren't sexually dimorphic though, so you can look for other clues. But sometimes, especially this time of the year, it's really difficult to tell a male or female. But thankfully, cardinals are one of the more forgiving species. So what I'm going to do right now, though, is hand this bird off to Christina. Christina has taken some courses on aging birds, and so she's actually much better than I am about telling bird ages. So I'll hand it off to her real quick. You can take your...
Christina is checking the wing feathers for plumage coloration, feather wear, and feather shape to help her determine this bird's age.
Take a picture and try to study later.
You just say I'm no.
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way.
Yeah.
That's okay, I can't age them.
They're really difficult to age this time of year.
I see some conflicting characteristics, so we'll put on them.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about anything else?
I think we're good. So Christina can put him in the glamour. Two different kinds of grips that Christina's going to show. She's actually showing now the photographer's grip. To really make sure you know what you're doing before you put a bird in that position, and you never walk around with a bird in that position. They're just too vulnerable. So as you notice, before she's going to stick it back in the bag, she puts him back into bander's grip, kind of secures the whole body. You always want to secure the wings because the wings are real vulnerable. The birds definitely need them. And she sticks it back in the bag. And why we're not releasing the cardinal right here is because cardinals have very small home ranges. They are a very common bird. You see them all over the place, and so if you let them go somewhere other than a familiar area, they may make it back. Birds are very smart, but they may have to fight 3 or 4 more males to get back to their home range. And so they're already stressed enough. So with cardinals and other birds that have small home ranges, we like to take them back to where we caught them so that they can at least settle down in their home turf.
This was a real surprise, a juvenile red-shouldered hawk. Getting it out of the net took expertise and patience. That expertise and patience pays off again. This is a real treat for everyone.
We will take this crossover and hooray! Mad individual, but he is, or she, I actually don't know, calm and not freaking out to where it's going to injure itself. So that's why we're here and we're going to talk about it real quick. But we actually can't ban this bird. I can't. My permit is only for passerines and near passerines, meaning small birds or woodpeckers, those kind of birds. You actually have to have a special permit to ban raptors, to ban hummingbirds, to ban game species like quail and turkey, ducks, and I really don't have the need to ban those. They're, not what I'm targeting. But in order to ban these kind of birds, you do have to have a special permit. But, when they get in our nets, we still have to get them out, obviously, as safely as possible and eventually release them. So this is a true treat to be holding this bird right now. None of us have actually caught a raptor in the net. So it was new for us. We had one of our technicians draw some blood. You always want to watch the talons. As you can see, I'm actually really not securing this hawk's, bill. Sorry, because it's the talons that you got to be careful of. Y'all sure? Well, so we're gonna have to still. Well, I guess we can release them. Yeah. Okay. Y'all ready for this? Yeah. Ready? That was incredible.
Time to check the nets again.
Very popular. Nice.
Do you do left or right? I can't remember.
I do the right, but it doesn't matter.
I am putting this little band on his tarsus, slow and carefully. He's teeny tiny, and I haven't done this in a little while. So a color band is a little plastic band that you have to be permitted to do this, that you can put on a bird's tarsus to recognize individuals later, so you can recite the bird and know exactly which bird it was. Am I doing this on the other leg?
We're putting
so towards the
top.
Towards the top. And Rebecca was saying this is a hybrid.
So the brown.
A little bit of brown in his forehead.
Mm-hmm. And then the crest is not completely black.
Oh, and his crest is not completely black. That indicates that he's a hybrid black-crested titmouse and tufted titmouse.
We are almost finished, but let's get a few pictures first.
Oh, one little photographer's grip shot.
I'm gonna close up the head.
Okay, so we'll get started. We'll take this little guy out of the bag. Wrens are some of the squirreliest birds to band. Never think you have a good hold on a wren. They are very squirrely and can easily get away from you. Now we'll go ahead and put a band on him. Rebecca has put one in my pliers here. Got a nice firm hold on his leg. He's not going anywhere. I watch this band go down safely around his leg. Get that a little tighter. Close. All right, so I've got my band on there, and it can rotate nice and freely. It can move around that leg, so it's not gonna bother this guy. He's good to go. And then we'll do our same measurements. I'll take my wing, and he was in net 2. And now I'll attempt to age him. I'm gonna take his wing out and have a look at it. Wow, so beautiful. My age is gonna be unknown. I don't see anything. He's likely an after hatch year, but I'll need to do some reading in my, we call it the Bird Bible, our pile guide. But aging unknown is fine when you're not sure. That's on my measurements. Sex is also going to be unknown this time of year. We can't tell the difference between male and female. And then I've got him in a nice sturdy bander's grip. And then just to get a look at this guy, I'm going to switch over briefly to photographer's grip, safely grabbing his legs so you guys can take a look at him. All right, and now he's ready to get out of here. Yeah. All right.
And yeah, you actually hearing them squawk a little bit and kind of flap around shows that they still got a lot of fight left, which is good. When a bird is actually really still, that's when you actually want to put it back in the bag and let it have some space. But when they're popping around and they're giving you some attitude, that's great. And I think that's it.